The bright afternoon sun cast long shadows across the International Space Defense Base as Dr. Samuel Wright hurried through the sterile hallways of the medical wing. His tablet buzzed with another urgent message. The alien delegation had arrived ahead of schedule. This wasn't just any delegation. These were the first diplomatic representatives from the Zarkax Federation to ever set foot on Earth. Sam adjusted his white coat and checked his reflection in a passing window. At 42, his brown hair had started graying at the temples, but his green eyes remained sharp and alert. He had treated countless soldiers over his 15-year career as a military medic, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for treating alien biology. The main conference room fell silent as Sam entered. 3 tall, silvery-skinned beings stood near the window, their 4-fingered hands clasped behind their backs. Their leader, who introduced himself as Kelethor, turned to face Sam. The alien's large purple eyes blinked vertically as he studied the human doctor. "Dr. Wright," Kelethor spoke through his translation device, his voice carrying a slight metallic echo. "We appreciate your willingness to share your medical knowledge with us." The alien's head tilted slightly, a gesture Sam would later learn indicated curiosity. "The pleasure is mine," Sam replied, setting up his presentation materials. "I understand you have specific interests in human medical practices." Kelethor moved closer, his movements fluid and graceful. "Yes, we have observed your species from afar for some time. Your recovery capabilities are unusual." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "In our studies of various species, we have never encountered beings quite like humans." Sam pulled up several medical cases on the large screen behind him. "I've prepared some examples of typical human recovery scenarios. We'll start with basic wound healing and work our way up to more complex cases." The first image showed the healing progression of a soldier's deep leg wound. The Zarkax delegates leaned forward, their skin shifting from silver to a pale blue, a sign of distress, Sam would later learn. "This patient returned to active duty within 3 months," Sam explained, pointing to the final image showing the healed scar. Kelethor's translator crackled with his sharp intake of breath. "Returned to duty. With such damage to the protective outer layer and underlying muscle structure." "Yes, that's fairly standard for this type of injury," Sam replied. He noticed the aliens exchanging quick glances among themselves as Sam continued through his presentation, showing cases of recovered burn victims, healed fractures, and even successful limb reattachments. The aliens' reactions grew more pronounced. Their skin colors shifted through various hues, and their questions became increasingly focused on the human capacity for healing and pain tolerance. "And these individuals," Kelethor gestured to the screen, "they survived not just the initial trauma, but the healing process itself, without losing their will to continue." Sam nodded, beginning to understand their amazement. Human beings have a remarkable drive to survive. Pain is temporary, but the will to live, that's something that runs very deep in our species. Kelethor's purple eyes fixed on Sam with an intensity that made him slightly uncomfortable. "Dr. Wright, would you be willing to share more detailed medical records with us? I believe we have greatly underestimated your species' capabilities." As Sam agreed to their request, he couldn't help but notice how the aliens huddled together, speaking quietly in their own language. Their reaction to basic human medical cases suggested they had discovered something that both fascinated and disturbed them. What Sam didn't realize then was that this simple medical presentation would change the course of human-alien relations forever. The morning shift at the base medical wing started like any other. Nurse Patricia Collins organized supplies, while Dr. Sam Wright reviewed overnight reports. The only difference was their new shadow, the tall, silver-skinned alien named Kelethor, who watched their every move with those striking purple eyes. 2 weeks had passed since the initial presentation, and the Zarkax diplomat had requested permission to observe human medical procedures firsthand. The base commander had agreed, seeing it as a chance to build better relations with the Alien Federation. "How do you determine pain medication dosage?" Kelethor asked, watching Patricia tend to a soldier with a sprained ankle. His translator device hummed softly in the quiet room. "We ask the patient to rate their pain on a scale of 1 to 10, Patricia explained, her gentle voice carrying years of experience. Her red hair was pulled back in a neat bun as she worked. "Then we factor in their weight, medical history, and the type of injury. Kelthor's skin rippled with a blue tint, and they can accurately assess their own pain. Most of the time," Sam added, entering the room with fresh bandages, "humans are pretty good at knowing their limits." Their conversation paused as shouting echoed from the hallway. Two soldiers burst through the doors, carrying their friend between them. The injured man had a deep gash across his arm from a training accident. "Put him here," Sam directed, pointing to an empty bed. As they worked to clean and treat the wound, Kelthor moved closer, his tall frame looming over them. The injured soldier, Private Alan Murphy, gritted his teeth but remained conscious. He even managed a weak smile. "How bad is it, Doc?" "You'll need stitches, but you'll be fine," Sam assured him, preparing the local anesthetic. Kelthor's translator crackled with surprise. "He maintains consciousness and cognitive function despite the injury." "Sure do," Alan replied, looking up at the alien with interest. "Had worse during basic training." The alien's skin shifted to a deeper blue as he watched Sam stitch the wound. His four-fingered hand reached for his communication device, quickly typing notes. Later that afternoon, while restocking supplies, Patricia noticed Kelthor studying the medical textbooks they'd provided him. The alien had barely moved from his spot in the corner for hours. "Finding anything interesting?" she asked, setting down a box of gauze. "Your species' ability to compartmentalize pain is remarkable," Kelthor replied, his eyes not leaving the screen. "In my species, such injuries would trigger immediate shutdown of non-essential functions. Yet humans remain operational, even interactive." Sam joined them, carrying fresh coffee. "It's a survival mechanism. Sometimes you have to push through the pain to stay alive." "Push through." Kelthor's translator struggled with the phrase. "You choose to override your body's natural response." "When we need to," Sam explained, sipping his coffee. "History is full of stories about people who kept going despite serious injuries. It's part of who we are." Kelthor's skin rippled with new colors, greens and silvers that they hadn't seen before. "And this is common among your species. This ability to continue functioning while damaged." "Pretty common," Patricia nodded. "Especially among military personnel. They're trained for it." The alien turned back to his studies, but Sam caught him making more notes. Whatever Kelthor was learning about humans clearly fascinated him. But there was something else in those vertical pupil eyes, something that looked almost like concern. What they didn't know was that each night, Kelthor sent detailed reports back to his homeworld. Reports that were causing quite a stir among the Zarkak's military command. The humans' resilience was unlike anything they had encountered in their centuries of space exploration, and it was beginning to change how they viewed these earthbound beings. Rain pounded against the windows of the medical wing as the emergency alert blared through the base. Dr. Sam Wright and Nurse Patricia Collins rushed to prepare the trauma room. Their alien observer, Kelthor, followed close behind, his silver skin gleaming under the bright medical lights. Lieutenant Andrew Bennett's training exercise had gone terribly wrong. An equipment malfunction during a routine parachute jump had sent him crashing through tree branches before hitting the ground. The rescue team was bringing him in now. "Multiple fractures likely," Sam said, pulling on fresh gloves. "Patricia, prepare the trauma kit." The doors burst open. 4 soldiers carried Bennett in on a stretcher, his uniform torn and bloody. Despite his injuries, the lieutenant was awake and talking. "Doc," Bennett called out, his voice strained but clear. "Left leg's definitely broken. Think I might have cracked some ribs too. Had to guide the team to my location with my radio." Kelthor's purple eyes widened, his skin shifting to a deep blue of disbelief. The alien stepped closer, scanner in hand. "You maintained consciousness after impact?" The alien asked, his translator barely keeping up with his rapid speech, and operated communication equipment. Had to. Bennett grimaced as Sam cut away his uniform. Was in a blind spot. They wouldn't have found me otherwise. The medical team worked quickly. X-rays revealed 3 broken ribs, a fractured left femur, a dislocated shoulder, and multiple lacerations. Through it all, Bennett remained alert, even helping them by describing exactly how he had landed. "Okay, Lieutenant," Sam said, preparing to set the shoulder. "This is going to hurt." Bennett nodded, gripping the bed rail with his good hand. "Just do it, Doc." The sharp crack of the shoulder returning to its socket made Kelthor step back, his skin now a pale gray. But Bennett just let out a short grunt and took a deep breath. "Thanks," the lieutenant said, managing a weak smile. "That feels better already." Patricia started cleaning the cuts on Bennett's face, while Sam examined the leg fracture. Kelthor moved from one side of the bed to the other, his scanner humming constantly. "Your pain levels must be extreme," the alien said, studying his readings. "Yet you maintain clarity of thought and speech. How is this possible?" Bennett looked up at the tall alien. "Training helps. Plus, I've had worse. Broke both legs during a mission 3 years ago. Still managed to complete the objective." Kelthor's translator made a strange sound, almost like a gasp. He turned to Sam, his 4-fingered hand trembling slightly as he gestured at Bennett. "This is not an isolated incident. Your soldiers regularly continue functioning with such severe damage." Sam nodded, preparing to set Bennett's leg. "It's more common than you might think. Humans can endure a lot when they need to." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. They set Bennett's leg, stitched his wounds, and wrapped his ribs. Through each procedure, he remained conscious, only accepting minimal pain medication so he could give his mission report to his commanding officer. Later that evening, as Bennett finally rested under sedation, Kelthor stood by the window. His purple eyes reflected the rain outside as he made notes on his device. Sam noticed the alien's hands were still shaking slightly. "Everything okay?" Sam asked, checking Bennett's vital signs one last time. Kelthor paused, his skin shifting through several colors. "I must revise many of my assumptions about your species, Dr. Wright." Many assumptions indeed. What Kelthor didn't say was that he had just witnessed something that would have been considered impossible on his homeworld. A member of his species would have shut down completely from even half those injuries. Yet this human had not only survived, but had actively participated in his own rescue. The implications were staggering. Kelthor sat in the base library, surrounded by digital screens and historical archives. His silver skin reflected the blue glow of the monitors as he searched through countless military records. Dr. Sam Wright had helped him get access to these files, curious about what the alien researcher hoped to find. The case of Lieutenant Bennett had sparked something in the alien's mind. If one human could survive such injuries, there must be other examples. As he dug deeper into human military history, what he found left him speechless. The first file that caught his attention was about Marine Linda Martinez. During a mission 5 years ago, her unit was ambushed in rough mountain terrain. Despite a bullet shattering her leg, she had crawled 2 miles over rocky ground to reach a position where she could radio for help. She didn't just save herself, she saved her entire squad. Kelthor's hands trembled as he accessed the medical reports. The bone had splintered in 3 places. By his species standards, the leg should have been useless. Yet the human female had continued moving, continued fighting. "Finding what you're looking for?" Sam asked, bringing the alien a cup of water. He had started checking on Kelthor regularly during these research sessions. "Dr. Wright," Kelthor's translator hummed with emotion. "This soldier, Martinez, she dragged herself across rocks with a severely broken leg. How did she overcome the pain?" Sam pulled up a chair. "She knew her team would die without help. Sometimes, when the stakes are high enough, humans can push past almost any pain." The alien's skin rippled with dark blue patterns of disbelief. He turned to another file. This one about Kevin Phillips, a soldier who had survived alone in hostile territory for 3 days. His injuries included a punctured lung, broken arm, and severe dehydration. This one used his broken arm to set a trap for pursuing enemies. Kelthor said, his purple eyes wide. He should have been in shock. Movement should have been impossible. But he knew he had to keep moving to survive. Sam explained. It's not just physical strength, it's willpower. Kelthor pulled up more files. A pilot who landed a damaged plane with both arms broken. A soldier who carried his wounded friend for 5 hours through a snowstorm. A Marine who swam 2 miles to shore with a broken collarbone after her boat sank. Each case defies biological logic. Kelthor said, his skin now showing swirls of green, a sign of deep thought. In my species, damage to a major bone causes immediate shutdown. Our bodies protect us from further injury by making movement impossible. Sam nodded, understanding. Human bodies try to do that too. We feel pain, go into shock, but we can choose to push through it. Choose. Kelthor's translator crackled with surprise. You can override your body's protection mechanisms by choice. When we have to, Sam said, though it usually comes with a cost. These soldiers all needed long recovery times afterward. The alien turned back to the screens, adding more notes to his already extensive research. His 4-fingered hands moved quickly over the keyboard as he documented case after case of human endurance. Dr. Wright, he said finally, his voice solemn. I believe my people have greatly miscalculated the capabilities of your species. These are not just isolated incidents. This is a fundamental aspect of human biology and psychology that we fail to understand. What Kelthor didn't share was the growing concern in his messages back to the Zarkax Federation. These humans weren't just resilient. They were capable of continuing to fight even when severely injured. The military implications were enormous. His people had never encountered a species that could simply choose to ignore their body's natural survival responses. The great hall of the Zarkax High Council gleamed with soft purple light as Kelthor stood before the gathered leaders. His silver skin showed traces of green, a sign of nervousness among his people. The curved walls displayed holographic images of his research findings about humans. Honored council members, Kelthor began, his voice steady despite his anxiety. My 3 months studying human medical practices have led me to an unexpected discovery. We must revise our understanding of human capabilities immediately. The council leader, Vertel, leaned forward on his floating chair. His aged skin had a deep blue tinge of skepticism. Explain your findings, researcher. Kelthor gestured to the first image, Lieutenant Bennett's medical scans. This human soldier survived injuries that would kill any of our warriors. But he did more than survive. He remained conscious and helped coordinate his own rescue. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Kelthor continued, showing more images. Their bodies are remarkably resilient, but that is not what makes them truly dangerous. He paused, making sure he had everyone's attention. It is their ability to choose to continue fighting despite severe injury. Impossible, one council member interrupted. No species can override their natural survival responses. Kelthor played a video recording from the medical wing. It showed Private Alan Murphy joking with nurses, while Dr. Wright stitched a deep wound in his arm. The council member's skin shifted to pale gray, their color of shock. They can not only endure pain but can remain fully functional while injured, Kelthor explained. Their military history is filled with examples. A soldier swimming 2 miles with broken bones, another fighting for days with internal injuries. They call it pushing through the pain. Vertel's purple eyes narrowed. How is this possible? Their bodies and minds work differently than ours, Kelthor said, showing more medical data. When injured, they experience pain as we do. But they can choose to continue functioning. Their survival instinct drives them forward instead of shutting them down. The council chamber filled with worried whispers. Kelthor brought up his most important findings. But there is more, he continued. Humans don't just survive. They learn from their injuries. Each recovery makes them more resistant to pain. Their bodies actually become stronger after healing. He showed them Linda Martinez's file. This human female crawled 2 miles with a shattered leg to save her team. By our medical understanding, this should be impossible. Yet she did it, recovered, and later returned to duty. Are you suggesting, Vertal asked slowly, that humans become more dangerous after being injured? In a way, yes, Kelthor replied. They call it building tolerance. Each survival makes them more capable of handling future injuries. Their determination grows stronger. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Kelthor showed his final slides, statistical analyses of human recovery rates and battle performance. Honored Council, he concluded, his skin now showing bands of urgent red, we must understand this truth. Humans don't just heal from injuries. They adapt to them. They learn from them. And most importantly, they can choose to keep fighting through injuries that would incapacitate any other known species. Vertal raised his hand for silence as excited discussion broke out among the council members. His ancient purple eyes studied the human medical data carefully. Researcher Kelthor, he said finally, your findings will require a complete reassessment of our approach to human relations. If what you say is true, they are unlike any species we have encountered in our 1,000 years of space exploration. The Zarkax Military Command Center buzzed with activity. Generals and strategists gathered around a large holographic display showing combat simulation data. Their skin colors shifted between worried grays and alarmed blues as they processed Kelthor's findings about humans. General Macfor, the head of military planning, paced the room. His battle-scarred skin rippled with concern as he reviewed the new information. Our standard tactics are useless, he said, pointing to the simulation results. We designed our weapons to cause immediate shutdown in enemy forces. But these humans, he paused, his skin showing streaks of frustrated red. They don't shut down, another general finished. They keep fighting. Kelthor stood quietly in the corner, watching the military leader struggle with his research. The room's purple lighting reflected off his silver skin as he listened to their discussions. Look at this battle scenario, Macfor said, pulling up a new simulation. Even with serious injuries, human soldiers continue to pose a threat. They can still shoot, still communicate, still coordinate attacks. The simulation showed a squad of human soldiers under attack. When injured, instead of becoming inactive like other species, the humans adapted their tactics. They used injured limbs to steady weapons, helped each other move, and kept fighting until they achieved their objective. It gets worse, another strategist added. According to the medical data, survivors become more resistant to pain, more determined. Each battle makes them stronger. Macfor turned to Kelthor. In your time studying them, did you find any psychological weakness? Any breaking point? Kelthor stepped forward, his translator humming. The opposite, General. Their resolve strengthens when faced with difficult odds. They have a saying, what doesn't kill them makes them stronger. I have found this to be literally true. The room fell silent as a new simulation played out. It showed various scenarios where traditional Zarkax tactics failed against human forces. Their medical technology is also advancing rapidly, Kelthor continued. Dr. Wright showed me procedures that can repair damage we thought was fatal. They can reattach limbs, rebuild bone, even replace lost organs. One of the younger generals spoke up, his skin showing ambitious red stripes. Then we must strike them now, before they grow stronger. No. Kelthor's voice was sharp, causing his translator to crackle. You don't understand. Every conflict would make them more resilient. Each battle would teach them more about us. They would adapt, improve, become even more formidable. Macfor studied the simulation data again. His purple eyes narrowed as he considered the implications. The researcher is right, he said finally. A war with humans would be unlike anything in our history. We cannot treat them like other species we've encountered. The general turned to face his staff, his skin now showing the deep green of serious thought. Our entire military doctrine must change. We've always relied on causing system shock in our enemies. But humans, he gestured to the medical data, humans just keep going. Kelthor stepped forward again. There is another option, General. One that my research strongly suggests. All eyes in the room turned to him as he continued. We should seek them as allies, not enemies. Their resilience, their ability to adapt and overcome, these qualities would make them powerful friends. Macfor considered this, watching another simulation play out. Finally, his skin shifted to the calm blue of decision. Prepare a new report for the High Council, he ordered. We must recommend immediate peaceful contact and alliance building with the humans. A species this resilient would be far better as friends than enemies. The sun was setting over the International Space Defense Base, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Dr. Sam Wright stood with Kelthor in the medical wing's observation room, watching Lieutenant Bennett take his first steps after surgery. The young soldier moved carefully on his crutches, determination clear on his face. 6 weeks, Kelthor said softly, his translator barely above a whisper. Just 6 weeks after injuries that would have ended Azarkak's life, he walks again. Sam nodded, making notes in his tablet. Bennett's recovery is actually ahead of schedule. He's pushing himself hard in physical therapy. They watched as Patricia helped Bennett adjust his crutches. The lieutenant had insisted on starting therapy early, wanting to return to his unit as soon as possible. His progress had amazed even the experienced medical staff. When I first arrived here, Kelthor said, his silver skin showing swirls of thoughtful green, I thought I was studying human bodies, but I've learned it's your spirits that truly set you apart. Sam turned to look at the alien researcher. What do you mean? My people shut down when badly hurt. It's automatic. Our bodies protect us from further injury. Kelthor's purple eyes tracked Bennett's movements. But humans, you choose to keep going. You decide that pain is less important than your goals. In the therapy room, Bennett stumbled slightly. Patricia moved to help him, but he waved her off, regaining his balance on his own. His face showed pain, but also pride in his progress. That right there, Kelthor pointed, that moment of choice. He feels pain, but he chooses to continue. Every step is a decision to push forward. Sam smiled. It's just how we are. When something knocks us down, we get back up. My report to the High Council focused on this quality, Kelthor said. I told them that humanity's greatest strength isn't in your weapons or technology. It's this. He gestured at Bennett, this unbreakable will to continue. A young aide entered the room, handling Sam a tablet. It showed breaking news. The Zarkax Federation had just announced a proposed military alliance with Earth, the first such offer they had made to any species. Your people agreed then? Sam asked, showing Kelthor the news. Yes, the alien's skin brightened. The council realized that any species with your resilience would be better as friends than enemies. But more than that, they'd want to learn from you. Bennett finished his therapy session, giving Patricia a thumbs up before sitting to rest. His face was tired but satisfied. Learn what? Sam asked. How to be stronger, Kelthor replied. Not just in body, but in spirit. My people have always avoided pain, avoided struggle. But watching humans like Bennett, I've learned that sometimes the hardest path makes you stronger. Sam thought about this. It's not just about physical recovery. It's about hope, determination, the belief that you can overcome anything if you try hard enough. Exactly, Kelthor's translator hummed with excitement. This is why the alliance was approved so quickly. Your species has something my people need, not just strength, but the will to use it. They watched as Bennett stood again, ready for another round of walking practice. His steps were stronger now, more confident. Dr. Wright, Kelthor said, his skin showing the calm blue of certainty, I came here to study human wounds. Instead, I learned about human wonder. Your bodies heal, yes, but it's your spirits that truly cannot be broken. Sam smiled as Bennett completed another lap. Welcome to the human race, Kelthor. We may not be the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy, but we never, ever give up.